Heat, the sun scorching mankind. One of the most alarming signs of the prophecy. And for the scientific community, climate change is unfolding with undeniable evidence.
The Earth is getting hotter. It's warming up. There are just certain physical principles that are inviolate. The physics behind global climate change are very solid. We increase the concentrations of atmospheric greenhouse gases, the planet warms. You cannot escape the physics.
For Mark Sarazi, a research scientist at the National Snow and Ice Data Center, the cause for climate change is obvious and man-made.
It became very clear that we were starting to see the effects of global warming associated with rising greenhouse gases.
Everything that we're doing in our activities, whether it's building new cities, putting up agricultural lands, whether it's driving vehicles and putting gases into the atmosphere that we know help warm the planet further, we are causing this planet to warm. It's happening much faster than our models were telling us is going to happen. And that's scary.
But for some religious experts, the evidence of climate change is linked to a larger prophecy, another sign of the impending apocalypse.
Men will die from heat, sun radiation and poisoning, crops, water will dry up. There will be such an intensification of the sun's rays that 50% of the Earth's population will die.
We're seeing natural disasters, unprecedented. When you see on the evening news somebody sitting in the upstairs of their home because the downstairs is flooded out, I mean, it's frightening.
Whether or not they agree on the cause, most scientists and religious experts do agree on one thing. Our planet is heating up, and the effects are catastrophic.
It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And then it's a matter of how severe is it going to be and what are the impacts going to be.
Increasing the Earth's temperature, even by a few degrees, can cause devastating consequences worldwide.
The change is going on very, very quickly. We're going to see a rise in sea level. We are going to see, very likely, more intense hurricanes. We're going to see increasing drought. You're going to see strife. You're going to see conflict. Increased terrorism as a result of global warming, it's in there in the possibilities.
A rise in temperatures would set off a chain reaction.
What we're going to be seeing is that rate of sea level rise is going to accelerate. Why is it going to accelerate? Largely because we're going to see increasing meltdown of the Earth's glaciers and ice caps.
What's going to raise the sea levels is primarily Greenland and Antarctica. Together, they're more than 90 meters of ice.
A small rise in sea level, just 10 meters, would submerge much of Florida and the East Coast. It would displace 25% of the entire population of the United States.
You might want to consider not living in a low-lying coastal area if you're intending to hold on to your land for a while, because that land might be gone.
Some scientists postulate an even more extreme rise in sea levels, up to 90 meters. That would create a truly biblical catastrophe. London, Venice, Amsterdam, Berlin, even Paris would be underwater.
Once you force the climate system with greenhouse gases, with what's been observed, over the past 100 or so years, you get this amplified warming.
At the same time, the Earth will be ravaged by fearsome superstorms.
Hurricanes feed on warm ocean water. The oceans are warming up. And so therefore it makes sense that we ought to see more intense hurricanes as we move into the future. We're going to see more intense or extreme weather events of other types, for example, thunderstorms. We put this all together and we're seeing a picture of change that humankind is going to have to deal with.
People in developing countries would be affected first. Hundreds of thousands could perish. But nations like the United States are far from immune.
I think we have this arrogance that, in the Western world we're fine, we can deal with any sort of climate change. But, you can look at things like Katrina happening, and we weren't prepared for that. But the reality is I think we're all vulnerable on the planet.
Whether or or not we're ready for global warming is a matter of conjecture. But there's no way to prepare for the next sign, a global war that will wipe out most of humanity. The final battle between good and evil. Revelation calls it Armageddon. The final mystery of the seven signs is extremely complex. The book of Revelation is full of dreamlike symbolic imagery and hidden clues.
Bible prophecy is really advanced intelligence from the mind of an all-knowing, all-seeing God. Just like intelligence at the CIA, where you have a little piece of information from one source and a little piece from another, and you have to put it together and connect the dots, Bible prophecy is this way also.
Another factor adding to the complexity of the seven signs is that there are more than 7 disasters contained within the seven signs.
We've got 3 sets of 7 judgments. 7 seems to be the perfect number. It's referred to the number that relates to God, as opposed to the Antichrist, whose number is 666.
There is more than one interpretation of the prophecy, which is why others have abused it to mislead followers to their own deaths. Even some religious scholars are unsure about the exact interpretation of the seven signs.
Whether these things are literal or somewhat symbolic, I think we'll just have to wait and see. We've had plagues, we've had famines previously in human history, so whether these are the exact things that God is bringing about in this age to prepare for this generation, having these judgments, that is just something that we can't speculate on.
But one thing that is clear is the climactic judgment in the book of Revelation. The final sign, Armageddon.
And I saw the beast, and the kings of the earth, and their armies gathered together to make war against him, and against his army.
According to Revelation, the first horseman of the Apocalypse reappears, the Antichrist. He has come to confront Jesus himself. It is the final battle between God and Satan. Good versus evil.
This war is just horrific in its magnitude. All the nations of the earth will converge at that moment.
Armageddon refers to a specific location.
In the nation of Israel, there is a mountain called Har Megiddo, which means the mountain of Megiddo. And there have been 21 battles for control of that spot. Nations and empires have fought time and time again.
The prophecy of Armageddon has left its mark on history. Some of those battles are fought by crusaders from the 11th through the 13th century. Many of these Christian warriors believe they are, in fact, fulfilling the violent prophecy of the seven signs.
The Crusades were literally seen as a working out of the prophecies of Revelation, because they were armies under the cross of Christ, moving into the Holy Land, the site of the Battle of Armageddon, and doing battle with infidel armies who they saw as diabolical.
To this day, the Armageddon prophecy continues to exert a powerful hold on people's imaginations. Some of the more knowledgeable believers in the prophecy think we could be on the verge of Armageddon today.
We live in a brutal, chaotic world, so much so that with weapons of mass destruction available and rogue individuals and nations and terrorists and so on, people are afraid that maybe this could be the end.
To believers, the looming threat of nuclear war has always been tied to the concept of Armageddon.
Looking at the nuclear arms buildup, the missing Russian suitcase nukes out of the former Soviet Union, the cataclysmic plagues of biological warfare being stored and manufactured in laboratories, I don't think there's ever been a time in the history of mankind where we have had the technology to literally decimate our world in a matter of weeks or months.
As other weapons of mass destruction have emerged, even secular experts evoke images that echo the prophecy.
there could be nuclear exchange. At which point, to protect our own interests, do we get involved with that or not? And if so, at what capacity? Do we launch strike packages to neutralize nuclear threat? Or do we just say, you know, let's just have at it?
If the final prophecy culminates in nuclear Armageddon, the end will be similar to those caused by a large asteroid impact or a huge supervolcano eruption. The devastation of war will be followed by a nuclear winter, a shroud-like cloud of radioactive debris that will envelop the globe in darkness.
We would now lower our global climate temperature by at least 10 degrees. As it got perpetually worse, we're screwed. And then the prevailing precipitation that would fall in the form of snow would be completely radioactive.
In this frozen hell, we would meet our final apocalypse. But apocalypse doesn't mean our demise. It means something to be revealed. The journey through the 7 signs only appears to be an unending litany of death and destruction. Starting with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, progressing to a mounting crescendo of horrific disasters, culminating with a final battle that could destroy everything on the planet. But to believers in the prophecy, the 7 signs are not a countdown to the end of time. The signs signal a new beginning, a startling and symbolic wake-up call.
The purpose is to grab a rebellious mankind's attention in an effort to bring mankind back to himself.
And this is where the mystery of the 7 signs is finally revealed. For amidst the devastation of the last sign, there is an unexpected end to Armageddon.
And I saw an angel come down from the heaven, and he laid hold on Satan, and bound him, and cast him into the bottomless pit.
Armageddon ends. Satan is defeated. Good triumphs over evil. And a period of peace and happiness begins on earth that will last 1,000 years.
The bottom line is this: God's not some angry tyrant slinging down lightning bolts. God is love, and Apocalypse is the unveiling of everlasting love. That's what it's all about. It's not about torture, and it's not about disease. It's about the love of God and bringing in a brand new world.
Yes, the prophecy is meant to terrify a rebellious mankind. But it ends on a note of hope. That deep human need for hope is one of the main reasons why the 7 signs are still relevant today.
The book of Revelation has never been read with more earnest, true belief than it is today. There's a certain irony there because we live in an age of science, of very advanced knowledge about the here and now, and yet even with all that advanced knowledge, there are people who say all that really matters is your religious beliefs, and those will be the final test of whether you live forever in paradise or burn forever in the lake of fire.
Are the 7 signs unfolding now? Despite all the evidence, it's still impossible to tell for sure. But there's one thing that can be said. The prophecy is every bit as powerful now as it was the very day it was written.